to be here, and just going to wait a few moments for people to join us. Quite excited about tonight. We're going to be here for somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour, so not too long. I hope you've had a good day today, and I'm looking forward to this Facebook Live and what we're going to be going through, and pleased to be here with you. I've got my my drink here as usual. I'm going super healthy today. It's hot water instead of tea. So I'm hoping that is going to, keep me a little bit healthier than maybe sometimes it have been in the past with, tea and sugar. I hope you've got yourself a hot drink and that you're ready for what we're going to be sharing today. When you're here, please do just drop a message in the chat underneath, leave me a comment, say hi. Great to see so many people with us already. We're going to be looking at the rating that made 1,431 units profit this evening. I'm really enjoying doing these Facebook Lives with you. I hope you're enjoying joining me on them. And looking forward to being here. I'm just going to drop a quick comment down below. Here, so just to show you that you can leave me comments throughout this. Hi Nicola, thank you for coming. You can leave me comments here. Let me just under this video, you will see somewhere down here a comment box where you can leave it. I'm getting a little bit more technically savvy with the Facebook Lives now. A little bit managing, I think, to organize things a little bit better so we don't have some of the technical problems that I had when we first started. I even managed to schedule this one on Facebook in advance to get everything in place. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes till 8:05, and then we're going to start going through the rating that made 1,431 units profit. I'm going to be looking at the rating. I've also got a whole list of things here. We've had some questions already, which is absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to go through this rating, explain a bit about it, tell you how it's made, how it's constructed. And then I'm going to take you over to the website. I'm going to show you how we put that rating into a race card, how we can then use that race card in a race. And then I'm going to answer a question that's already been asked about how we can use that with more going conditions and more information. And then any questions, obviously, just ask me as they come to you. Just pop them in the chat. I'll come back and I'll answer the questions towards the end. And kind of that's the layout for the next hour, 30 minutes to an hour. Questions you can leave underneath. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, just hit the smiley faces, the thumbs up, the hearts, whatever. It lets Facebook know that you like what we're doing here at the Race Advisor. It tells other people about it, and generally is, it lets me know that you're enjoying it as well. I'm kind of doing the right thing. So before we get started, any questions? Chris, thank you very much. That's a great question. What type of racing are we looking at? This is going to be today pretty general. I'm going to look at different racing. So we might have some flats, some more weather, possibly some jumps. I'm going to be focusing more on the rating specifically than getting into the nitty gritty. But if you read the article that we put on the blog this morning, you'll know that this rating performs better generally over flat. However, there are certain conditions on jumps where it can perform exceptionally well. Okay, I'm going to get started now. Evening, Finn. Great you could join us. Thank you very much indeed. Again, if you just joined us, say hi. I'd love to see who's with us. I can only see a number if you don't say hi. So it'd be wonderful to actually put some names to those numbers. So please do say hi. Please do put the thumbs up, the smiley faces. Let me know you're enjoying it. Ask questions. Get involved. Chris, what about US racing? I'm not going to be looking at US racing. There is a reason for that. And the reason I'm not going to be looking at US racing is it behaves totally differently to UK racing. There are very, very few similarities. The races are much shorter. The conditions are very different. And the horses are very different as well. And a lot of what we do in the UK doesn't directly translate to the US. And I know that because I started my journey to profitable horse race betting on US racing, and I had to change everything I knew and adapt it to the UK. So while our ratings and information is based on the US, actually it is its own world and it works very differently. Even the betting works differently out there. It's all pool betting. It's primarily dominated by some major betting groups who play off against each other. They move the pools to the tunes of millions of dollars to try and get the other betting teams to bet on the wrong horses. They're all running statistical models. So the whole market, the betting, as well as the analysis of the horses is very different. So, and also, of course, US racing has started now to shut down as well. There have been some tracks closing down today, and I would expect to see more happening too. Okay, so let's get started on the racing that made 1,431 units profit, how we can use it, how we created it, how we can put it on a race card, and how we can expand on that information as well. So I'm going to start by bringing you over to a blog post that I published this morning, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. Don't panic. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to show you some of the highlights. So here's this blog post, and it's going to be a little bit confusing there on the screen because the picture is very similar to the background. So let me just scroll down. So the rating, first of all, the rating that we're going to look at is this rating here. It's called the PFP rating. Why did I call it that? I actually honestly cannot remember. That name was made a very long time ago when the rating was first developed, but it stuck, and I call it the PFP. I think it was Post Form Pro or something similar to that effect. Now, the way this rating works is, let me just scroll down to some tables here while I'm talking about this. So the way this rating works is we look at every horse is past horse race. So once the race is finished, see where the horse finished the current race. Okay, everyone can see that. That's fine. That's normal. We get the finish position. We get the distance to winner, all of which is useful information. And that allows us to score the horse on form because we kind of know the ability of that horse compared to the other horses in the field. So that all makes sense. That's kind of obvious. We can see that, which is great. However, we don't necessarily know the quality of each of those horses in the race from just one race. I mean, this is just a single race. So it's not possible to know the quality of that horse from a single race. So what we do is we then look at all the horses that every horse in that race has ever raced against. So think of it like this. We take the horses in the current race and we get their finish positions and the distance to winners. And then we say, right, well, let's look at every horse each of these horses has ever raced against and how they fared against them. So, you know, let's say horse number one has raced against 100, 200, 300 horses in the past. And we see how it's compared to all of those horses. And that starts to give us a picture of actually how good horse number one is compared to other horses, compared to a bigger sample of data. But it's still not really enough. It's better than just looking at one race, but it's still not really enough. So then we take every horse that those horses have ever raced against. So let's say horse number one's raced against 300 horses. And then each of those 300 horses have raced against 300 horses. We do the same for each of those 300 horses. Now we've got 300 horses times 300 horses, and we're looking at kind of 9,000 horses. And we do the same thing. We see how each one of them fared, and this comes all the way back down the line. So don't worry. Yes, Chris, you will be able to play this video back later. It gets saved in Facebook. I will also, if I can, I'll upload it to YouTube, and I will send another link out via email to the recording as well. So don't worry. You can get all this again. I actually think I have a few tools here that I've never really tried using before. Where are they? Let me just see. Oh Oh, no, I don't. I do apologize. I thought I could draw on the screen, but I actually can't. So let me just go through that again. So what we have is we look at one race, the race that we're interested in, and we see the results of all the horses in the race, where they came and how far they are from the winner. That's excellent. That tells us how the horse performed in this race, but it doesn't tell us how good the horses in the race were compared to the general consensus of horses, you know, across thousands and tens of thousands of runners each year. So then we look at every horse that each of those horses has ever raced against, and we do the same thing. We use the distance to winner, the finish position, and the race conditions to assess how each horse in our race performed against all those other horses previously. And that starts to give us an idea of the quality of each horse, because we're now looking at how this horse performed against every horse it's ever raced. And when we've done that, you see, we can compare it directly with how it's raced today. And we can also compare how this horse has fared against every other horse it's ever raced to all the other runners in the race and how they've fared against all the horses they've ever raced. But we need to go another level deeper, because we've still only compared our initial horse. So we're only comparing our initial horse to these other horses. So we don't know how good those other horses are. So we can't really make a judgment on how good our horse is until we know how good these other horses are. So we do it again. We go one level deeper. So we take every horse that our horse has ever raced against, and then we take every horse that those horses have ever raced against. And we then look at the finish positions of them, the distance to winners, and the race conditions. And now we have information that tells us how good the horses are that our horse has raced against. And that then tells us how good our horse is in this race. And it also tells us how good the other horses have been in comparison, because we've got enough information to do that. So that's how this rating works. So it's a kind of form rating. It sort of sits somewhere between form and collateral form. So I'm happy to go into that in a little bit more detail later. If you've got any questions, throw them in the comments below. Don't forget, please, if you just joined, hi, great to be here. We're going through the rating. We're going to be looking at, I'm going to explain the rating, which I've just explained. You will be able to see that in the recording or the replay if you missed it, so don't worry. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, hit the thumbs up, hit the smiley face. It lets Facebook know that you like what we're doing at the Race Advisor and you enjoy our content, and that in turn tells more people about us. So that's this rating. And what you can see now on the screen behind me here is a breakdown of the rating that was in today's blog post. And if you haven't had a chance to read it, let me just drop the link in here. Don't go and read it now, bookmark it, so you've got it for later. But this is the link. It will appear in a minute in the comments. I should have probably written something nice about that there as well, but hey, you know, just click on that one. It will take you to that blog post, and you'll see it. I find it quite hard to type in the comments, to be honest, and talk at the same time. So it's as you can see, because I just typed in the comments, so it just stops my train of thought. Right, so pardon me. So we looked into this rating over the last few days and broke it down into stats. And I'm not going to go through the stats because it's all there in the blog post, so you don't need me to go through the different breakdowns and information. I will go through quickly the fact that we have this rating in 3 versions. In fact, we have almost all of our ratings in 3 versions, and there's a really good reason for this. We have a raw rating, that's version number 1. We have a difference from top, that's version number 2, and we have a ranking, that's version number 3. Now, the raw rating is exactly as it sounds. It's just the raw number that we get by calculating this rating. And in this case, that number is quite high because we give every horse as a newcomer a base rating of 1,500. So 1,500 is the base level for a new horse. Anything above 1,500 means that horse is better than base. Anything below 1,500 means that horse is worse than base. And we adjust that number up or down after every single race based on what I've just told you about all these other horses and the distances and the race conditions, and we work out a points improvement or points ability shown in the race based on all the other horses in the race and all the horses they've ever raced against and all the horses those horses have ever raced against. And we just adjust this score up or down. So, you know, in a race where no horse has ever raced before, every horse will have a PFP rating of 1500. And at the end of the race, some will increase and some will decrease. And that's kind of how it works. So that's the raw rating. Next, we've got the difference from top. And this is an underused way of measuring a horse's performance generally, because raw ratings can be quite difficult to use if you don't understand the rating. It's a number. What does this number mean? I don't really know. It hasn't really got much relevance to you until you have played with it, built systems with it, tried strategies with it, and used it. So instead, you can use difference from top. And I wrote about this, I think a week or two, maybe a bit longer actually back. But using difference from top basically means that we take the highest rated horse in the race, the top rated horse, the best horse according to that rating in the race. And we say, right, this horse, for argument's sake, let's say this horse has a score of 100. This is the top rated horse. It has a score of 100. Top rated horse in this race, score of 100. And then we see the second top rated horse and actually see what is the difference between the top rated horse's score of 100 and the second top rated horse. So if the top rated horse had a score of 100 and the second top rated horse had a score of 90, well, the difference between the two is 10. So instead of showing a score of 100 for the top rated and a score of 90 for the second top rated, we would show 0 for the top rated because the difference from top is 0 because this is the best horse in the race. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't quite make sense, leave me a message, let me know. But best horse in the race, there is no difference from the top rated horse in the race to the top rated horse because it's the same horse. So that's 0. And the second best rated horse in the race, the difference from top would be 10. And so when you look at a list of this, and I'll show you this, I'll show you this on a race card in a bit, but when you look at a list of this, you can suddenly see kind of these what I call breakpoints on a race card for a rating, because you can see actually all these horses seem to be quite close together. And then there's suddenly this massive gap between two horses. So actually, you know that for this rating, these horses are probably going to be pretty close. And then we got a big gap to the next horse. So immediately, without knowing anything about a rating, you can see kind of the strongest horses in a race by measuring it from a difference from top instead of the raw rating. So that's our second version of most ratings in the Race Advisors database. And the third one, of course, is rankings. So this is quite simply the best rated horse in the race is ranked number 1. Second best horse in the race is ranked number 2. Third best horse in the race, ranked number 3, etc. So that's a nice, simple one like that. So those are the 3 versions of these ratings. And believe it or not, they all work differently because, like everything, if you measure something slightly differently, it behaves slightly differently. So actually, you could say the best rated, the horse is ranked number 1, the best rated horse in the race for a rating, and horses that are, as you'll see in a minute, within 1 point of the best rated horse in a race, that's 2 different groups of horses, because you might have loads of horses within 1 point of the best rated horse, as well as the best rated horse. So you're adding a whole extra batch of horses in. And in the same way, if you say horses that have a score of over, 150 for this rating, well, that's a different way of measuring it again, because that might include the first top rated, second top rated, third top rated, fourth top rated in one race. And in another race, it might not include the top rated horse because that horse might not be rated high enough. So using one rating measured in 3 different ways or looked at in 3 different ways can actually yield very different results. Chris, I see that question, but I'm not quite sure I'm understanding it. So would you mind kind of expanding a little bit on it, because I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but I will come back to it. So we have those 3 types of ratings. Now, the PFP rating, for those who've joined us, is what I wrote about in the blog article today, and you can see a link for that in the comments below. If you want to go read it, I'm not going to go through the whole thing now because you can go read it there and get all the information and stats from it. We have 3 ways of measuring a rating. So it's a very quick summary. The raw rating, the difference from top, and the rankings. If you missed what the difference between those is, don't worry. This video is recorded. It will be on Facebook. If I can get it onto YouTube, I will get it onto YouTube, and I will drop a link out tomorrow to the recording so you can watch it again, go through it again. That's all fine. And not to sound like a broken record, but please, if you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up, hit the smiley face. It really, really does make a massive difference to how Facebook views the Race Advisor on there while we're doing this. So we did all these stats and we broke it down. And the idea was, and the idea is going to be, we're going to do more of these, is to look at a rating, maybe one a week, that we have here at the Race Advisor, and we're going to break it down. As some are going to perform great on their own, some are not going to perform so well on their own. They're all going to measure different things, just to show you what can be done with ratings, with a variety of ratings and that. In this particular case, we didn't need to go too far to make it profitable, and I really haven't gone too far. Essentially, we broke it down based on the top 4 horses. So I looked at the top 4 horses from a ranking perspective. And then I looked at all the points there. And very briefly, we saw a nice, as expected, decline in strike rate and decline in profit here. And decline in AE ratios and everything else. The bottom one was very profitable, but I wouldn't expect it to be, and we can see that here in AE ratio. Again, I'm not going to go into that. It's written there why. Then I looked at the difference from top, and again, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we had categories here, just more points away from the top-rated horse. And then I looked at the raw rating, a greater score than 1600, and then between different ranges of the raw rating. And we got all these results out, and we had a look at it. And then I took the best ones and saw if we could make that better by simply breaking it down into different race conditions. And that was it. That was where I stopped. I didn't look at ground, distance, number of runners, and all of these factors that could actually improve this even further, make it stronger, make it more consistent, and increase the strike rate. What I'm interested in for this Facebook Live is the 3 most profitable that we got from that. And we got here, let me scroll down to my summary. Sorry, we got here 3. Let me just pop over so I can see if you can see it. Yeah, okay, so you can see 3 bullet points there behind me, kind of wrong way, about here-ish, up here. That's the way, there we go. Okay, I can see the questions coming in. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Please do keep asking. I'm going to come back to them so that to keep this to time, I'm going to go through everything and then come back to all the questions at the end. So please do keep them coming in, and I'll come through here. I will answer all those questions. So in summary, there were 3 areas that we found that had the best races, now the best results, and that was top-rated horses in flat races, found 19% winners, made 384 units profit since 2018 with a 4% edge. Horses within 1 point of the top-rated horse in flat races made 868 units profit since 2018, found 18% winners, and again had a 4% edge. And then any runner with a PFP score of greater than 1600 in chase, flat, hurdle, or all-weather races made 1,431 units profit since 2018, found 35% winners, and had a 79% edge. Okay, now I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail. Now the first thing to notice here is that the first 2 that I mentioned there, one of the reasons that they were profitable is because it is now so easy, and it was anyway this year, leading into this year, to get 2% commission rate on exchanges. For most people, you can now get a 2% commission rate instead of 5%. And that actually pushes a lot of things into profit. So those 2 would have been break even, possibly a slight loss at a 5% commission. After all, we only had a 4% edge. So 5% commission on the odds is likely to push us down to a slight loss. However, with a 2% commission, that makes all the difference. So that makes all the difference. So those are the first things to point out. And the second is, obviously, this is historic. It was taken from all the data from 2018 to current. We can never guarantee that what's happened in the past is going to happen in the future. This was purely an analysis based on the data from the last 2 years. And, you know, I would never recommend just going out and using these stats straight as they are. We should put some more information with them, and we should look at the race to actually determine how a horse is likely to win, whether it has a preference for the ground, the race, etc. Like we've talked about before, the usual stuff. We want to give ourselves the best chance of winning, and using flat stats. And if you've ever tried just taking a single angle, you will know that it's not the best way to do it. Take the angle, use that as a base, and add to it. You don't need to add crazy amounts to it. You just need to add something to it, because the thing is, everybody who's read that article will use that rating as a base. And I can guarantee you that, well, I was about to say 80 to 90%, but you guys are kind of on a different level to most bettors. And so let's say 30 to 40% of people will take that and just use it as is. Well, they're all doing the same thing. However, if you take that as a base, you know you've got this amazing starting point. You've got this starting point that historically has been profitable. Now, just add a couple of things to it. Even if that's looking at the race and making an assessment on whether the horse is improving or declining. Does it like the ground and the distance? There's two different ways of doing it straight off the bat. Doing that makes you slightly different to everybody else. Put one more rating with it. Again, makes you slightly different to everybody else. The odds won't get knocked. Things won't change. You're far more likely to take it and maintain profitability for the long term by doing that. If you take something straight off the page like it is, use it, you might get a bit of profitability for a while. Everyone will jump on it. The odds will change. It won't work anymore. Spend that extra 10 minutes, makes the whole difference in the world. Literally, that 10 minutes can take you from a losing bettor to a profitable bettor. It can take you from into long-term profitability, just that short time. So again, guys, I can see questions coming in. I'm not reading them because I lose my train if I do, but I am going to come back to every single one. Any questions, throw them in there. If you've missed anything so far, don't worry, there will be a recording. It's on Facebook. I will send a link out to it, and if I can get it onto YouTube as well, I will get it onto YouTube, so you can watch everything again. So those are the three areas that we looked at. Now, the last one, PFP score greater than 1600. Now, the thing to be aware of with this one is they don't come around so often. I mean, the difference in volume of horses is massive. I mean, we had about 1,000 horses in that, whereas in the others, we're talking about nearly 14,000 in one, over 10,000 in another. So the volume of horses is massively, massively different. And obviously with the first two, you've got scope to do more to it. You can add more factors. You could break it out into more multiple systems. You could build off that multiple systems. And so, or multiple micro angles or whatever you want. You can use that as a base and spiral off and make numerous things. The third one, you're going to be able to do less with because there's far less selections. So, okay, now, having gone through that, having gone through the rating and talked about that, welcome for the guys who've just come in, or ladies, gents, ladies who've just joined us. Great to have you here. Introduce yourself in the chat. Please leave a question. I'm coming to the questions at the end. I will answer them all. We've just gone through the PFP rating, the fact that it has made 1,431 units profit since 2018. Doing very little. My thoughts on that and how you should use it going forward for long-term profitability. How that rating's been made up, and again, you can watch this in the recording if you've missed it, so don't worry. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you over to the races. I'm going to show you how we put this rating on a race card. I'm going to add some extra ratings in as well. I'm going to show you us using it on a race, and then I'm going to take it from there. Now, before I move, and I swap these screens over to a race. The last thing I want to point out is, and this is something that I have seen more and more of, and I've been helping people more and more of, and it's wonderful because I think it's something that I was missing, missing helping people with, and now I am actively very aware of it and helping a lot of people with it. So the first one here, which you should be able to see on your screen behind me, which is that way, I believe, is 19% winners. This finds 19% winners, okay? The second one down here finds 18% winners. And then there is the live session of 30, the live session, sorry, someone just messaged me something saying live, and it went into my brain as I saw it pop up. And then it went into the third one, which is 35% winners. So I just want to very, very briefly talk about strike rates and percentage of winners, because this is something that I don't think I've really ever spent enough time on. I'm going to be spending more time on it, and I'm certainly helping people in the forum a lot more. If you're not part of our community in the forum, please, please, please jump over to the forum community. I'm just going to grab the link there and put that in the chat as well. Here we go. There's our forum community. Please, please, please do come and join in the conversation there. So I'm helping more and more people over there on strike rates and understanding them. So if we are winning, let's take 19, but let's take 20% because it's easier. 20% of our races, we're losing 80% of them. Remember that. We might be winning 20% of them, but that means we're losing 80% of our races. That doesn't mean we're not going to make a long-term profit. Quite the opposite. A long-term profit and strike rate and they are related, but they're not intangible. They're not kind of permanently linked together. Your long-term profit is to do with your odds. The strike rate is more to do with psychology. So 20% strike rate is great, but that means we are losing 80%. I'm just trying to a chart up here that I've got somewhere. Here we go. So that means you're losing 80% of your bets. Now, what that means psychologically is if we're winning 20% of our races, then actually over a period of 50 bets, you're going to get a losing streak of probably 18. Over a period of 1,000 bets, you're going to get a losing streak. A losing streak, that's one loser after another with no winners of 31 expected, and it could be more. So that doesn't mean, again, that you can't make a profit from it. You can, and you can make a long-term profit. It's about the psychological approach behind it. And can you cope with 31 losers in a losing streak if you've only got a 20% strike rate? And don't forget, you could get 31 losers in a losing streak, have 4 winners, and then another 31 losers in a losing streak. They're not just isolated necessarily. And you can be sure if it's something you're not comfortable with, it's going to happen. So when we think about strike rates, we should always remember this fact that actually we need to be comfortable. And generally speaking, I find that most people aren't comfortable with more than 5 to 10 losers in a row, which means that most people need a strike rate of 50% or higher to be psychologically comfortable with their betting. And that generally means not betting on horses to win, but using each way, place, 80-20, Dutch bets. There's all sorts of ways you can do it. However, if you are using win bets, possibly lower odds to get that higher strike rate. And so I just wanted to put that out there because I've not focused on it enough. Always remember that actually, if you're only winning 20, if you're winning 20%, if you've got a strike rate of 20%, yeah, that's not too bad in the great times, but you will lose 80% of your bets. You should be prepared for that. You should have a bankroll that can cope with losing streaks of 31. And most importantly, you should have a mindset. You should have your mindset prepared to cope with losing streaks of up to 31. I mean, if you're only placing one bet a day with a 20% strike rate, you could have over a month without a winner. And then you could get 2 winners and have another month without a winner. So you could easily have 6 or 7 months in a downward trend until you start to come out of it. So that mindset is so important for long-term profitability from sports betting and horse racing betting. Okay, so let's jump over to a race card. Now, I'm just going to put this up here. I'm going to hide this, and we're going to do some snazzy stuff. Right, there we go. I've done some snazziness. I'm on this race card. I actually don't want to be on this race card, so I'm going to come back to our dashboard here, and I'm going to come down here to the settings button, which is in the left-hand column just here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make a race card that has this PFP rating, this rating that has made 1,431 units profit since 2018 under certain conditions. I'm just going to add a new race card, and we get this this nice pop-up here. And I'm going to look for PFP. I'm just going to filter them by PFP, and you can see we got a ton of PFP ratings. Okay, now that's because we've got variations on the actual rating. We've got how many points have been added, the best ever, the volatility of it, the class, PFP classes. Anyway, I'm not going to go into those. I'm just going to be looking for the PFP rating, which is number 13. You can see it here. And I'm going to press the plus sign and push it over onto this race card. And you'll just see that's just moved over there. Now I'm going to look for the rank version of it as well here and add that on. I'm going to look for the difference from top version and add that on. And then I'm going to come back to all of them. Okay, so I added those base PFP figures. I'm going to save this race card as a PFP example. There we go. I could put a description in and everything else, but for now, I'm just going to leave it as that. I'm going to come back a bit later and add a few more things in there, but I'm just going to add that race card. And that gets added to the list of race cards. And if I scroll through these pages of race cards, you can see here, there's that race card added. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the dashboard. So that's how we put, I mean, it's as simple as that. That is how we add a rating to a race card. And I've added all 3 versions of this particular rating to the race card. But it is literally that simple. Again, any questions, please do drop them in the chat. I will answer them all. I'm going to come back and answer them. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up the top somewhere, or the smiley faces, or the hearts, or whichever. Tell Facebook that you're enjoying it. It makes a massive difference to us while we're doing this. And if you've missed some stuff, don't worry. There's going to be a recording. I'll drop the link out to the recording at the end of this live. Actually, it'll probably be tomorrow, and if I can get it on YouTube, I'll get it on YouTube as well. Okay, so I've come back to our dashboard. I've just made that race card. As you saw, it's really quick. I just searched for the PFP rating and dropped it in. For those pro members who are with us, I'll just show you this. Actually, I'm just going to come back to the settings page here. You will notice there is a button here called Ratings List next to the Add New Race Card button. If you press that, it pulls up an entire list of all the ratings in the database, all the information about them, the explanations, etc. I should have shown you actually while I was making that race card that you can get an explanation over it, but I'll show you that in a bit. Now I'm going to come over to racing today. Obviously there is no live racing, so I'm going to use Aldermist Race Course, which is our virtual race course. And as you probably heard me say in another webinar, I am so excited by this. I'm so proud of it. We've got more coming out at the end of the week. We've got a fully simulated betting platform that will massively improve your live betting. It will enable you to place simulated bets at Aldermist, our virtual race course. Test strategies far easier. It's absolutely incredible. Anyway, the Aldermist race course, these races work like real races. You can't backfit these races. You can test anything on them. You can build anything on them. You can practice form reading on them. This is why I'm so excited, so proud by them, because it's not just about the fact that there are no races at the moment. This is about a new way of testing your strategies, your systems in a live environment without the risk of losing money, knowing that if you can get them working here, you'll be able to, they will work on live racing. That's why I'm so excited by it. As you'll see as I go through this, the races have real horses, real trainers, real jockeys, real form histories, real ratings. Everything in them is real, and the results are based on real probabilities and horses' real chances of winning. It is like, as I say, so excited, so proud of it. It's absolutely incredible. It's an absolutely incredible tool. So you can see all the upcoming races here, and the results are available for around 6 hours, and they drop off the end here. So we got up to 1:40 this afternoon's results. I'm just going to do a, initially I'm just going to look at a past result race. So let's just, a maiden one's not a good example. Let's just take this one. You can see we've got, this is a Cup Handicap and Heritage race. And as you can see, it looks like a normal race card here. Now, I'm just going to open our rating. You can see I've just selected at the top right here, it kind of dropped behind me a little bit. But at the top right here, you can see I've just dropped down the race cars, and I've got quite a few here. And at the bottom, let me move it all the way up so I think you can see it. Yeah, is PFP example. So I'm just going to click on that one, and that's going to reload the race with that race car. And here we go. It's dropped in, and there we go. You can see this looks like exactly like a normal race. We can see our classifications. We've got all the race details up here. We've got all of our tools up here. We've got pace overlays. We've got PR odds, probabilities, our tissue line, VDW odds. Everything is working exactly like a live race. And we can even, if I click on a horse's name, Steel of Madrid, let me just show you that as well, because it's just amazing. There you go. You can see there we've got this, every horse's full form history. Unfortunately, you can't see the hover over here, but when I hover over the horses, we've got all the in-running comments. It is like real. You can see the last race this horse had, 22nd of December. So yeah, so we've got all of those there. Anyway, let me come back to the mainstream here. 1 second, let me just leave a message. There we go. Right, so we're back on this main screen here, and you can see it looks like a real race course. Okay. Again, questions for the people who've just joined us. A bunch of people just came in. Welcome, great to have you here. We're just looking at a race. You can watch a recording of this later. Any questions, please drop them in the comments below, and I will answer them at the end. Okay, so we've got a real race here. I've got this race card up here, and you can see we've got, I can't shrink myself, but you can see on the right, we've got 3 columns there, okay? We've got 3 columns over here on the right. We've got the PFP here, the rank PFP, and the difference from top PFP. So let's just have a quick look at this. Now, you can see as an example, one of our categories in that blog was a PFP score greater than 1600. This race hasn't got any horses with a PFP of greater than 1600. So you wouldn't be able to use that in this race. That's why I was saying the previous 2 have far more horses that you are likely to get in them. And that was the top ranked. So we're always going to have a top rated horse. And horses within 1 point of the winner. Now, I've just realized that those points were on flat races, and luckily we can see here this is a flat turf race, so that's fine. Okay, so let's start with the PFP. Well, we haven't got any within 1600, so that knocks that out. Obviously, we've got horses ranked the best. So, for example, I'm just going to highlight this horse. This is the top rated horse. Now, hopefully you can see here, you can see the first kind of 4 horses before it disappears behind my head. But you can see these 4 horses down to here, and you can see the difference TP. So you can see that the top rated horse ranked number 1 next to it with a PFP score of 1,525. Remember, the base level for this rating is 1,500. So this horse is 25 points better than 1,500. Now, you don't know what this rating is. So as I was saying, what the hell does 1,525 mean? Well, let's look at difference from top PFP over here. We can see that horse is blank for that because it's the top rated. There is no difference from the top. It is the top. The second best horse here is 8 points from the top. And if we start to look down the race, you can see here that the next best horse, 8 points from the top, the second best horse, 14 points from the top, 16 points, 18 points, 19 points, 20 points. We don't need to know anything about this rating to know that actually the biggest gaps come from the first to second and second to third horses. After that, they're all pretty close. 14 to 16, 16 to 18, 18 to 19, 19 to 20. So they're all a few points within each other. Obviously, there's quite a big jump from the third best to the worst, but the biggest single jumps come from first to second, 8 points, and then a second to third, which is 6 points. And then they start to come down to 2 points, 1 point. So that tells us a lot more about the race if you don't know the rating and you haven't practiced it, and that goes for any rating. Okay. So are any of these horses within 1 point of the top-rated horse? No, except for the top-rated horse, obviously, because the next best is with 8 points from the top-rated. So the only thing that we can use from the blog on this is the top-rated horse, which found 19% winners and made 384 units profit since 2018 with a 4% edge. Hi, Michael. Thank you for the questions. I will come back to all the questions at the end. Fear not. Please ask any others that come up, and there will be a recording of this as well. So one we can look at from here is the top-rated horse, which is Scarlet Dragon in this particular race, which ran at what time did this race run at? I have just found something that we need to fix in the software. Oh, there it is. No, I don't need to. It's already been thought. The developers are wonderful. It's the 7:10 race. You can see how new this platform is because I wasn't even sure where the time of the race was on this particular race, because these are all the future races we've got along the top. At the time of this race here, 30th of March, this took place at 7:10. Okay, so in this 7:10 race, which we will be able to watch, Scarlet Dragon was a top rated. Now, remember, these horses are only going to win 19% of the time. That means they're going to lose 81% of the time. And I don't recommend you just use that as a flat, despite having made 383 units, 84 units profit since 2018. There is a 4% edge. Use this as a base point. How can we use it as a base point? We can do a number of things here. We can use other ratings. So, for example, we could look at the PR odds. I'm going to sort by PR odds here, and you can see that this horse is third in the PR odds. If I use our contenders, we can see that the only horse with a contender, it's not in it. If we look at the betting market, we can see this horse is somewhere in the middle of the betting market. You know, so we could put another rating in. I'm going to show that in a minute. We can also, of course, use the form history. If I open this horse's form history, hold on, I think I've just been, bear with me 1 second. Just been timed out of the members area. Let me just log back in. Here we go. Okay. Right. Okay, there we go. Now, if pardon me. Oh, sorry, I need to show the screen over. If we, where is it? It's this one. Let me hide this. Oh, hold on. I think there was a, I'll be able to make it. No, wrong way. Sorry, bear with me while I work out the settings to get this big for you. Bum, 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 bum. I need to hide that one. There we are. Okay, I got there. I got there in the end. Okay, we can use this horse's form history, and this is this horse's current form history. Okay, so you can see here. Sorry, I didn't that message. We can see here that this horse's form history, full form history. We could use this form history going back. Remember, this race was today at 7:10, so we can see past races here. We can see all the past races here. We can see the race conditions, where it came, the weight it was carrying, the distance, the ground. This is the weight, headgear, finish position. And again, you can't see it on this screen share, but if you hover over it, you can see so that in this race on the 22nd of December. The horse came first by 0.2 lengths behind ahead of Corinthian. It was held up behind leaders, got headway 5 furlongs out, led over 2 furlongs out, soon ridden, 1 length up, entering the final furlong and just held on. So we got all of this information that we can use to actually compare. And now, with doing very little, my gut would be that this horse isn't going to win the race, but we can look at it. This is a virtual race. This is an Aldermist, our virtual race course, because there is no live racing. So I'm just running through how we use it at the virtual race course. While I'm just talking about what I'm going to look at next, I'll just play that race and turn the sound off. I'll just play that race so we can see what actually happened. My gut is this horse probably didn't do so well in the race. It may take a moment to load because the bandwidth when I'm streaming isn't so good at the moment. Any questions, as I say, please drop them in the chat. But that's how we can use it. So what I'm going to look at next, so we've looked so far at the PFP rating. We've looked at how it's constructed, how it's made. We then looked at the stats behind it, some of the stats, doing a basic analysis of it. We've looked at some of those stats, how they stack up, how they made the conditions that they made 1,431 units profit in. I then went on to look at how I would take that, with the fact that we wouldn't use that as a raw information going forwards. Pardon me, I've got the hiccups. It's historical. I would use that as a base level and build on top of it. And then I showed you how we can make a race car very quickly with that rating on it. Nice and simple, easily done. And from then on, we just had a quick look at a race. Yeah, Chris, we can absolutely look back at real races as well with the ratings. That's absolutely no problem. I'll show you how to do that right now. And then I'll show you how to do that now. And then I will go on to show you a couple of other ratings that I talked about in the blog post. And I think I saw some chat going on about a question about that there. So hopefully that might cover it. But I will come back to the questions. And I will also cover how we can use other ratings with this in the next bit. Then I will go through any questions that have come through. So any more that you've got, please do answer. Okay, so actually that horse won as it happened. So there we go. And the odds were 9.69. So let's come back to the dashboard. And Chris asked how we would look at historical ratings. Very simply from the dashboard, we would just take the calendar here, go back to whenever we wanted, choose a race, 16th of August, for example. Those are all those races there. So you can see we've got all the races from the 16th of August there. We've got all of the virtual races there. Let's click on, here we go, Newbury, Class 4 handicap, for example. So it works in exactly the same way. You'll see when this race opens, it looks exactly the same as the virtual racing. Exactly, Finn. Scarlet Dragon won. And it opens with the right race card because that's the race card that I last used. So we automatically open it with the race card last used. And again, it looks exactly the same as you can see as the as our virtual race that you've seen. The only difference being that there is a name to this race here, the Christopher Smith Associates Handicap. Otherwise, everything is identical. Again, if we sort by columns, we can see there is no horse with a score of greater than 1,600. We can also see in the PFP column here on the right, if I select the top rated horse, you can see the one below it is 5 points away from top rated. So there is none there. And we got the rank here as well. So you can do this on historic races as well as the virtual racing too. To be honest, if you're testing a strategy, I would recommend using the virtual racing because there is no way of knowing the result before the race is run. It is impossible to backfit in it, and it behaves exactly like a real race. There is a race every 10 minutes, so it is like having a real race every 10 minutes, and it will refine your betting strategy excellently. But if you would rather use it on historic races, you absolutely can. Chris, I'm happy to have a look at that race at the end as well, if you are okay to stay on for that. I'm happy to go back and have a look at that. What I'm going to show now is I'm just going to go through, pardon me, I'm just going to go through how we can add extra ratings. So I'm going to come back to our settings page, and I'm going to come back to the race card on the settings page. I think it was page 2. Here we go. And I'm just going to click that edit button here and open it up. I'm just going to add in a couple of other factors, and the ones that I'm going to focus on are the upper confidence 95 and the lower confidence 95 there. I'm just going to drop in another rating for argument's sake. Here you go, speed rating, just so that we can have an extra rating and to show you how you could expand that card out with extra information. I come back to the dashboard. Pardon me, I've got a real frog in my throat. I'm going to choose a race here. I'm going to choose a shorter race if there is one. Here we go, 5 furlong race handicap, that will do. 9 o'clock at Aldermist. And here we go, we've got this race. So this is what it's looking like. And you'll see now that the race card, you'll see here the race card has now got extra fields in. We've got PFP U95 in this column, and that stands for upper confidence 95%. Again, if you hover over any of these, there's a little tooltip that just pops up and tells you exactly what that rating is. You can't see it on the shared screens, unfortunately. Next to that, we've got L95, PFP L95, that's the lowest confidence. And then we've got we haven't been able to make projected speed figure in this race. That was a bad choice. Let me just come back and change that quickly for something else. Only take a moment, as you can see, just to change that rating out for something else that we have. So I'm just going to remove that one there and put, let's just put 5278. There we go. That's a good solid rating. And come back into it. Okay. So there you can see the extra rating that I've put on. So sometimes we can't project speed and things like that. Pardon me. We don't have a rating, every rating for every horse in the race. It depends on what we measure it. Most races we can project speed on, but sometimes we just don't have enough information, and it's better to not try and predict something that we haven't got enough data to accurately predict. Okay, so so you can see here we've got these extra ratings. So the PFP U95 and L95, these are confidence levels. So a rating is what we expect a horse to perform based on that rating. So the top rated horse here has a PFP rating of 1517. In fact, both of them, there are two, they're joint top rated, 1517. And I'll actually do it by rank. So you're going to ask me why one horse is ranked 1 and it has a rating of 1517, and one horse is ranked 2 and it has a rating of 1517. The reason for that is because actually these calculations are highly, highly accurate, and they're done to kind of like 10, 20 decimal places. They're really, really accurate. But we don't display that because that's impossible for us as humans to read. We couldn't read a rating to 10 decimal places. It wouldn't make any sense. So we round it up to the whole number. However, when we calculate the rank, we know that this horse, Kinloch Pride, is very, very marginally better than Sylvanus. So the rank is actually not joint. This horse is very marginally the better horse. When we round that number up, they have the same PFP score. So the top PFP score is 1517 in this race. And that is the rating that we think this horse had. This is like our best estimate for this horse. However, we can never be 100% accurate. It's a rating, so we can never be 100% accurate. So what we have is something called confidence levels. And we can then say, well, with 95% confidence, we believe this rating to be between the lower level and a higher level. And we estimate it to be 1517, but we expect it to be between a lower level and the higher level, and we can be 95% confident it's somewhere in that range, and most likely to be around 1517. So that's what these confidence levels are. It tells you exactly that. Now, you got your upper confidence and your lower confidence. So we can tell you that with 95% confidence, we expect Kinloch prize rating to be between 1,499 and 1,536. But we estimate it to be around the 1,517. That's the most likely area. But we can be 95% confident it's going to be between 1,499 and 1,536. Now, in this situation, that's quite a big range. Sometimes the ranges are really small, sometimes they're really big. And that's all dependent on how much data we have on the horse, how accurate we think that data is, so how confident we can be in our estimate. I mean, you'll notice down here, if I come to Desert Ace, that this horse's range is much smaller. We can be 95% confident this horse is going to have a PFP between 1,497 and 1,506. That's a much, much smaller range. And it's likely to be around the 1,502. It's most likely to be around 1,502. That's a much, much smaller range because for this horse, we will have more data that we are confident in to be able to create a far more confident assessment of the range for that horse. So I hope that makes sense. So we can use this in a really interesting way because actually, Kinloch Pride is the best ranked horse for the PFP in this race, but we know it could have a PFP rating as low as 1,499. So in fact, any horse whose upper confidence level, whose potentially highest point in its range is better than 1,499 could compete with this horse because we don't know where in the race that's about to happen this horse's rating is actually going to fall. We can be 95% confident it's going to fall between 1,499 and 1,536. And if it falls at 1,536, it's probably going to trounce the rest of the field and steam off into the distance. But if it falls at 1,499 in this particular race, there's loads of other horses that could beat it. In fact, if you look at the top range of the rating, the upper confidence level for all of these horses, every single horse, if it performed to the best that we would expect its rating to be, could beat the number one ranked horse if the number one ranked horse performed to its worst. So this gives you a totally different picture of the race. And this is where I mean we need a little bit of more information before we decide on how to bet, because this could totally change how we bet on this. We might not actually, this is number one ranked horse, and we know that these horses on flat races found 19% winners and made 384 units profit since 2018. That's great. However, we can already say that in this particular race, there are lots of other horses that could easily compete with this horse if this horse doesn't run to its best. So we start to consider something slightly differently. Maybe we skip this race. Maybe we look at a bit more information. That's where we get another rating that comes into play, possibly the 5,278. And look, again, Kinloch Pride is right down here, number 6. Also not a strong consideration. So now it's number 6 in another rating. That doesn't make us confident either. Now we know that if this horse performs badly, any horse in the race could beat it on a PFP. It's only got ranked 6 out of 8 for a different rating. You look at the odds market. It's second second favorite by quite some margin. The favorite in the race could easily compete with this horse if this horse performs either to its most likely rating or lower than the favorite in the race. If the favorite in the race performs to its best, it can easily compete with this horse. So this might be a race that we skip for this particular factor. And again, we could jump into the horse's form if we wanted to. And this is why I say we should use statistical angles and information about ratings. And it doesn't matter whether it's the top rated horses in flat races that made 384 units, the horses within 1 point of the top rated. The difference from top is 1 point within 1 point of the top rated, or one or less, that have made 868 units profit, or whether it's horses that have a PFP score greater than 1,600 across chase, flat, hurdle, and all weather races that have made 1,431 units profit since 2018. You shouldn't just use this piece of information on its own. You should take that as a base and then build on it just by adding 1 or 2 extra ratings or a couple of extra pieces of information, or by spending 5 minutes looking at the horse's history to see whether it likes these race conditions or not. So that's how we add in extra information. I'm going to go through some questions now. So if you've got any questions, please do drop them in. I'm going to scroll all the way back up on my screen to the top, answer them coming down, and then when I get to the bottom, I will say goodbye, love you, and leave you. So if you've got any questions, please do ask them. If you're enjoying it, please do the thumbs up, the smiley faces. Let's Facebook know that you're still enjoying it. Thank you so much for joining me and being here. So let's get through some of these questions. If you join partway through, don't worry, there's going to be a recording. I will send that out in an email tomorrow with a link so you can watch the recording. If you missed anything, if you want to go over it, it's going to be there. It's going to be available for you. If I can get it onto YouTube, I know some people prefer YouTube to Facebook. I'll drop it over there as well. Scrolling down the questions, we'll be able to play that in the video later. Yes, best rating based on RPR. Collateral form, what happens if horses have less form, and how can you compare them given less races? Okay, so Chris, Chris is asking here, what happens if a horse has less form? So for those who missed it, this rating is kind of collateral. We look at every horse, each horse in a race is raced against, and then we look at every horse that those horses have ever raced against as well. So it goes kind of like 3 levels deep. We've got this race, all the horses those horses have ever raced against, and all the horses those horses have ever raced against. So we kind of go 3 levels deep here. And what Chris is asking is what happens if some of these horses don't have much form? Because surely that makes the information not as full. You haven't got as much data to base your rating on. And that's absolutely right. But that's one of the reasons that we go 3 levels deep. That gives us so many horses that the missing data sort of smooths itself out. So horse racing data, generally, horse racing data is possibly the messiest data you will ever see. If you get a statistician, you give them some horse racing data, they're like, what's going on with this? There's holes, there's gaps, there's things that aren't quite right. It's estimates, it's not accurate. But that's what we, as horse racing bettors and fans and lovers of horse racing, that's what we have. That's what we have to use. So we have to work around it. So one of the ways that we do this is in this particular rating, if we estimate that in a horse's, in an average race, a horse is going to be racing against 10 runners. Okay. So in an average race, a horse is going to be racing against 10 runners. And let's say it's been in 5 races. That means it's raced against 50 horses. Now, if all those horses have only been in 5 races, each of those horses would have raced against 50 horses in 5 races. So you've got 50 times 50. So you've now got 50 times 50 in my head is a lot. 50 times 10 is 500. Times 5 is 2,500. So you've already got 2,500 horses there to consider. Some of whom will have had a lot of racing experience, some of whom who won't. So we've already smoothed it out, and that's not really using many horses. And that's one of the reasons we step back all these levels, is because it gives us a much bigger data sample, and it gives us a much more accurate way of assessing a quality of a horse. Moving on, how do you define the best rating? Is it based on handicap marks or the best rating? Well, in this case, so the best rating is rating dependent, but usually it's the top rated horse. So the top rated horse in the race is the best rated horse in that race. I think that's what you're asking. If that's not quite right, please ask it again. But the best rated horse in the race for that rating is usually the top. We do have some ratings that work in reverse. The 5278, for example, is a classic because it works a bit like ranking. So the top rated is number 1 as a rank number 1 first. Second top rated is number 2, rank number 2 second best. And we show our users exactly where that happens as well. Whether the scale is best is higher or best is lower. But that's usually top rated is the best. Does this rating take into account race types? Yes, this rating takes into account race types, race conditions, everything else. In this particular rating, again, not all of our ratings do, and it's not always good to take account of all of this information in every rating. That's why we have a range of ratings, a lot of ratings to choose from, so that actually if you want to, you can just get raw information like form, raw form, speed over any condition. So sometimes it's better just to have a pure, simple rating without taking into account everything. Sometimes it's better to have ratings that take account a lot of things. But this particular one takes account of that as well. Michael, is this to single bets? The results in the blog post are all to 1 unit stakes. So when I said 384 units, 868 units profit, and 1,431 units profit since 2018, in those 3 sections, they're all to 1 unit stakes. And yes, you're right, they are to win stakes. I'm keeping going. If there are any more questions, put them in now. Can you show how you can combine results with going? Yes. To be honest, Finn, the quickest way to do that is to use the horse's past history. Honestly, that is without a doubt the quickest way. Did you want me just to show you how you can use a horse's past history to do that, or would you like me to show you a rating? Drop that in there. Eric, hi, great to have you here. Don't worry if you join later, there is going to be a recording of this. I'll drop a video out via email tomorrow, so you can catch up on it. It will be either on Facebook or YouTube. It will definitely be on Facebook. It might be on YouTube as well if I can get it there. Chris, I think you're asking me, is my best rated horse the best PFP? Not necessarily, no. What I'm showing here is just one rating that we have, and how you can use that one rating to find both the strongest horses in a race and potentially long-term profits as well. And what I've done in the blog post is broken it down into race types to give a base starting point. So you know now that if since 2018, if you took the top-rated horse in flat races, top-rated PFP rating, let me start again. You know now that if you took the top PFP rated horse in flat races since 2018, you'd have found 19% winners and made 384 units profit, and there's a 4% edge. You know that if you had taken any PFP rated horse that was in 1 point of the top rated horse in flat races, you'd have made 868 units profit, 18% winners and a 4% edge. And if you'd taken any horse with a PFP rating of greater than 1,600 across chase, flat, hurdle and all-weather races, you'd have made 1,431 units profit. Now, finding 35% winners and a 79% edge. So what I'm doing is I'm showing you there are a myriad of ways to make long-term profit from horse racing, an absolute myriad of ways. So what I'm showing you here in this article is one of our ratings. And I've broken down a few of the conditions to give you a base level where you can start with this rating. You can take this rating and add to it, like I've shown you throughout this Facebook Live, to turn it into a strategy that works for you. And I do this with RA Pro members. So, you know, if you're an RA Pro member and you want to use this, drop it into the forum. Start a thread. Let's get you running using this. Ask the questions. I will build it with you to suit your mindset. Like how I was talking about strike rate earlier. The mindset is so critical, which is why you need a strategy designed for you, built with you, where we can take a base strategy or a base statistic or a base angle and we build on it in a way that suits you, suits your time, suits your risk, suits your temperament, your personality. That is what makes a long-term better. 90% of long-term profitability comes from mindset and having a strategy that works for you. There are a myriad of ways, as I've just shown, and as I showed in the blog post, that you can find profits from horse racing. You won't be long-term profitable until you use that and adapt it to suit your personality. And that's what we're doing at the Race Advisor with people. So I hope that answers that question. The profits, Jason, are based on Betfair SP to 2% commission. And I mentioned earlier that actually the first two that have larger pools of horses, they would be break even or a small loss at a 5% commission. However, because you can now widely get 2%, most people can get a 2% commission now on betting exchanges. That has pushed these into profit. And I'm going to do a new rating every week. I'm going to break down a new rating every week. They won't all be as crazily profitable as this out of the box. Some will make a loss out of the box, but they will show us some very useful information. So some may make a loss out of the box just using them as they are, but they will give us, maybe 50, 60, 70% winners. And make a small loss and break even. So the ratings have different uses. They're not just all about profit. They're about also increasing strike rates. They're about making a strategy that works for you. Combining them together in that way is super important. Chris, if you're still here, do you still want me to have a look at that race before we finish for this evening? Just drop a quick yes or no in the box. If I don't hear from you, I'll assume that you're no longer with us. But if you are, please do just drop a yes in if you would like me to do that, or a no if you're not bothered. In the meantime, if there are any more questions about this, please do let me know. If you've just joined, there will be a recording. If you're enjoying it, please hit the thumbs up and the smiley faces somewhere at the top here, or it might be at the bottom. In fact, sorry, I keep saying the top because that's where I'm saying, but I think actually it's at the bottom. So if you see those smiley faces at the bottom, please click that button, click the thumbs up, like this live. It tells Facebook that we're doing stuff that you like. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. If there are no more questions, I'm going to go through a final race with Chris. He's asked me to go through a specific race. The 1 o'clock on the 18th of January at Lingfield. We're going to have a look at this race. I'm going to go through that. And if any more questions come in, I will answer those at the end, and then we will bring this Facebook Live to a close. So we're going to come out of Aldermist here. I cannot stress enough how incredible Aldermist, this virtual race course is. This is nothing like virtual racing at bookies. This works exactly. It is the best way to live test a strategy system, or to live build a strategy or system. There's a race every 10 minutes, and it works like real. All the data that you have for live racing is real. You cannot backfit to it. And because there's a race every 10 minutes, you can actually very, very rapidly get results for your system, paper trade without risk, knowing confidently that you can move straight over to it. If you aren't an RA Pro member yet, then please do go to www.raceadvisor.co.uk. You can grab a first 30 days free there. And as I say, we have coming out at the end of this week an absolutely amazing update, simulated betting at Aldermist, our virtual race course, along with a whole load of challenges and other elements to improve your long-term betting. And I'm hoping this is going to make it even easier for you to become a long-term profitable bettor. So I'm just going to jump through this race, and then if there are any more questions in the meantime, please do drop them in, and let's take it from there. So it was the 1 o'clock at Lingfield. Okay. Here we go. Betway handicap 7 runners in this 1 o'clock at Lingfield. Okay, so the first thing we notice in the PFP column here, if we sort in order, is that there was no horse greater than 1600, so that statistic is gone. There is also in the difference, I don't know why we sorted that, but in the difference to top PFP, the next best horse is 15 points away from the top rated. So again, within 1 point doesn't exist for us in this particular race, which leads us to rank. And Pactolus is the top rated horse. I've got no idea which horse won this race. Absolutely zero idea. So this is the top rated horse. Let's have a quick look at some other information. First of all, if we sort by odds, we can see it's near the bottom of the field in terms of odds. if we sort by upper and lower confidence levels, hang on, let me bring this back. So I'm going to sort by rank. So the upper confidence level for this horse is 1,556 and the lower confidence level is 1,514. Now, scrolling down the upper confidences here, we can see that actually, apart from Battle of Marathon and Petit Jack, every horse could perform to a comparative level with Pactolus if it doesn't perform to its best. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. So that already says there's some competition in this race. However, if we sort by 5, 2, 7, 8, we can actually see Petit Jack and Battle of Marathon. Those two horses are down the bottom anyway. And also Pactolus is ranked number 1 here for us. So that's a good bit of confidence. I'm going to open the sort by PR odds. Where am I? There we go. Sort by PR odds. And I can see here that Pactolus is the second best. Again, great. Was also a contender. And based on our raw odds is also second best. I can see that by sorting the raw odds column here. Second best. Okay. And the raw odds being our raw odds compared to the odds that came from the live betting market. We put Pactolus being odds should have been 4. So actually with live odds of 11, that would put huge value on this horse as a bet. So it's looking like a strong horse all in, but with potential competition. Now let's just open this horse's historic races. Let me drop that in so you can see it. Here we go. Okay, so here's Pactolus's historic races. Now this race at Lingfield is a Class 2 all-weather race over 1 mile 4 furlong with prize money of just under 12,000. So let's just have a quick look. We've got a lot of Lingfield races here, as you can see. Over 1 mile 2 furlongs, 1 mile 2 furlongs, 1 mile 2 furlongs. In fact, if we scroll down, there's a lot of history. There is no 1 mile 4 furlong race. 1 mile 2 furlong is the longest. On standard ground, so we're only interested in standard ground. So let's look at the most recent ones because they're going to obviously have the most impact. So the last race was at Wolverhampton, 1 mile 1 furlong, carrying 9.12, same weight as carrying today. And came second, beaten by 1 length. If I just hover over it, you can't see it, but essentially it led the field and then didn't get any extra. So possibly pace issue there. The next race, 1 mile 2 furlongs, so that's more closer to today. Again, came second, beaten by 3/4 of a length. Having another look at it, pushed along, read well, inside the final furlong to come second. Next race down, you see we only spent hours on this. And notice these have all got 12,000 prize money. Those were both Class 2. We're now in a Class 1 at Lingfield, carrying a lot less weight, £10 less. Came third, beaten 4.5 lengths. And it dropped the last 4 furlongs out and then couldn't keep on. So obviously didn't have the class for that race, prize money, but that's okay. It's dropped back in. Just scrolling down a little bit, we're dropping in class a little bit, but I'm going to come down here. Did well at Lingfield in a Class 2 for a huge prize money, but was a Class 2. And again kept pace, but came third, 7:30. Came third, quite a fair distance, 7.75 lengths behind the winner there. So, but if we have a quick scroll down here, the other thing we notice is there's almost no wins here. There's almost no wins. Lots of places, but no wins. So, again, we can use that. That can feed into our information. And let me just bring you back over to this tab here. Again, any questions while I'm doing this, please drop them in. I will come back to it. So for me, Pactolus looks like it could be a solid bet based on the PFP rating. It's top rated, but obviously we know they only win 90% of the time. Looking at everything else, we've determined that this horse, the other horses in this race, could compete with it if this horse doesn't perform to its best. There is an indication it may perform to its best because it's ranked 1 in another rating as well, and that's a good rating we know. However, the odds, the live market is indicating there's a little bit of doubt over it. So Our tissue line is indicating the odds are great value at 4.02 and it's a contender. However, having a quick look at its history, we can see the horse doesn't really like to play to win very much, and that's a concern. Now, if I open VDW odds, knowing this information, if I open VDW odds and look at the score, we can see the VDW score goes lowest is the best. We can see this goes from lowest to highest here, and Pactolus is the lowest, and that's the best. And the reason I'm saying that is because we found this horse might like to place, prefer placing to winning, and we can see here that the VDW place is 100%. That means that one of the top 4 horses in our VDW score has placed 100% of the time in similar races to this race. So with all of that information combined, I would say this horse probably has a chance of winning. A good chance of winning, but maybe doesn't like to win, so I probably wouldn't go on a win bet. I might go each way place or possibly an 80-20. I've got no idea what position this horse finished in. Chris, maybe you'll let us know, yeah, and we'll take it from there. But I hope that was useful to you. Right, last few questions. If there's any, if you've just joined, welcome. We're coming to a close. I'm doing questions now. There will be a recording of this Facebook Live. I'll send you out the link to it. It will be on Facebook. If I can get the recording onto YouTube, it will be on YouTube as well. So, Carl, yes. Yeah, it would be a good each way bet with odds of 10-1 or 11 decimal. Yeah, it would be a good each way bet. Potentially on that race. Hopefully Chris will come back with the actual finish position of the horse, and maybe the distance to winner as well would be great, and any in running comments. Petit Jack won that race. Okay, where did Pactolus come in the end, and how far behind the winner was it, Chris? Be great to know. Thank you. Fine. Could we have picked out Petit Jack? I don't know. Possibly. We were only looking at one particular angle, one particular strategy. If we were using another card, for example, my form reading card, that is my personal race card here, RD Overview. It's got a whole range of ratings looking at speed and form and everything else and class. We might have found it with form reading. And this is something else that's really important, actually. While I've got you here, before we finish, this is something that's really important to understand. If you use an angle as your base, as opposed to a bigger strategy. So if you use an angle as your base, that angle is going to be pivotal on a single piece or a couple of pieces of information. For example, in this case, PFP, which is form-based, collateral form-based, is going to be pivotal on that piece of information. So we're not taking into account other things. So yeah, we will sometimes way miss horses that come steaming in those. They won't even be on our radar when we use an angle as a base. Because we're using a single pivotal or a couple of pivotal pieces of information that we're then building on top of to create our profitable strategy. But that doesn't mean we're not going to be long-term profitable. At the end of the day, if we've got the right odds and we have the right mindset for the strike rate, we can cope with the losing runs, we can cope with the downswings, then it doesn't matter if those horses come in or not. We know that we will make that long-term profit, and that is the key to making the long-term profit in a nutshell. It's that mindset around it. So we could have found Pat with other information. Great. So that's that. It finished 5th. Wonderful. How far behind the winner? Anyone? Can anyone give me how far behind the winner it came? Just out of interest, I'd love to know. John, will Aldermist continue after racing starts? Absolutely. Aldermist Racecourse will continue now at the Race Advisor forever. We have some huge plans for it. One of the biggest of which is going to be released towards the end of this week, Friday or Saturday. We're going to release that out and then expand it next week as well. This isn't just about the fact that there is no racing on at the moment. Although that was the Kickstarter behind it, it is no longer just about that. This virtual racing, because Aldermist behaves like a real race, there is nowhere I know of better to test and build strategies on like live real racing for no risk at a speed that is 344% faster than real racing, because there is a race every 10 minutes. It is impossible to backfit on it, and you can be totally confident that if you've got it working at Aldermis, you move it live, it will continue to work because it behaves exactly like a live racecourse. And that is why I am so excited about it. I honestly believe it to be a world first. I do not know of anything else like it out there in the world that enables us as bettors to practice strategies, build strategies, learn form reading, and become profitable long-term bettors rapidly, 344% times faster, in an environment that is exactly like live racing but carries no risk and cannot be backfitted. And all of our tools upcoming tools on the Race Advisor will also plug in and work with Aldermis Racecourse, so they all work as like live racing. So I hope that answers that. Thank you for the distance, 1.5 lengths behind the winner. So actually it competed fairly well. It came 5th. It was obviously quite a competitive race, like we said. We thought it could be based on that range of ratings. And it actually came within 1.5 lengths of the winner. So we would actually consider, although the horse came 5th, that was a good race for the horse. We didn't make a profit on it, but it was a good race for the horse. And we would consider that. Thank you very much for the link, Chris. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolutely wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it and you've not pressed the thumbs up, the smiley face buttons at the bottom, please do. It tells Facebook that you like what we're doing at the Race Advisor. These are going to become regular. I'm going to be doing these now every Monday evening at 8 p.m. Not necessarily just about ratings. We're going to look at a whole range of topics. Some will be about ratings. Some will be about form reading. Some will be about staking. We're going to look at a whole range of stuff. If you want to see something on one of these Facebook Live, please email in and let me know. We'll put it on the list and we'll come to them in order, and I will go through them and I will talk about them. Really enjoying it. And I hope you are too. As I say, if you're not an RA Pro member, go grab your first 30 days free on the site at www.raceadvisor.co.uk. For RA Pro members, at the end of the week, there is our simulated betting is going to be released. It's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. It's going to be absolutely incredible, along with challenges that are inbuilt that will improve your betting, and that will actually improve your long-term profitability or your journey to long-term profitability massively faster. It's going to accelerate that learning curve. It's going to drop the curve and accelerate you straight up it by the nature of it if you're using Aldermis for practicing your betting on. It's going to absolutely accelerate that. I'm so excited about it. If you're not an RA Pro member, I've got a very exciting announcement as well, but that's not going to happen till next week. So I'll let you know about that next week. Keep an eye out on your inbox. There will be a recording of this sent out via email tomorrow, linking back to Facebook and also to YouTube if I can get it up there. I need to figure that out tonight. So if I can get it up on YouTube, I will do. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for the link to the results. I'm going to actually have a quick look into that now before I grab something to eat. It's been absolutely wonderful. Take care. Please stay safe, healthy. Keep your family safe and healthy. I'm going to look forward to seeing you next Monday in the next Facebook Live. And obviously, if you are, please come and join in our community. I'm going to drop a link in again to the community if you're not getting involved there. I log in every day. Well, actually, I log in a few times every day. I try and reply to everyone personally as well. And obviously, you've got the benefit of everyone else in the community. Wonderful people like Finn and John and a whole bunch of you guys, lovely ladies and gents who are here with me this evening. So if you're not taking part in that community, do come and join in the community there, please. It's truly a wonderful place to be. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. Have a great week, and keep an eye out for some of the great content coming out over emails this week, and also on our Facebook page. And I will see you in the next Facebook Live Monday night. Good night. Have a lovely evening. Bye for now.